Hello, everyone. This is Jim Ledoux with Vibrant Faith, and I'm delighted to spend 30 minutes with you to walk through our presentation called Be an Inviting Church. And I wish to share with you 10 great tips in this 30 minutes that allow you to be more intentional about your inviting process, how you invite your neighbors, your friends, your co-workers into the life and ministries of your church. So let's get started. First of all, as far as training tips, I just want to encourage you. A lot of you I know might be watching it individually. Some of you might be watching it as a team, but I want to encourage you to start with taking notes. I want you to capture what ideas might you implement. What do you find that you're already doing? What's present? What do you want to celebrate? And then when you have these notes, I want you to think about who you're going to share them with afterwards. So grab that pen, that piece of paper, but start actually taking some notes and think about what you want to apply and what you want to share. And my hope is that you come away with at least one or two ideas and action steps that you can implement in your particular ministry. And I also want to lift up this element. There's going to be some things that we talk about today that's just low-hanging fruit. You could probably implement it tomorrow or the next week or in the next month. But I also want to encourage you to think about what are those really high impact activities or norms or habits you can create that will have the greatest impact on extending invitations. And then lastly, as you take your notes, so often what happens is we go to conferences or train events and we take our notes, we share them with a couple of people, and then we don't circle back to say, what do we want to implement now? What's the next step? Oh, yeah, that was a really good idea. I forgot about that. So think about where you're going to keep those notes and when you're going to review them. So kind of tip number one is really, I want you to think about first impressions. You've probably heard the quote, you never have a second chance to create a first impression. So I want you to think about what are those essential touch points you need to be paying attention to. And in particular, I want you to think about, because one of the things we do is that we want to invite people, and then if people come and have a bad experience, then have we really benefited anything? So I want you to think about how do you ensure that not only that you invite, but that we welcome people and we create something that becomes a wow experience for them. But there's a couple of very basic things. If you invite people and they want to learn a little bit more about it, they're probably going to go to your website. And so I'd encourage you at a minimum, you don't actually have to overhaul every single page on your website, but your home page should really be engaging, should have people, shouldn't be overly cluttered, but people should be able to navigate the bar and find what they're looking for. But on that homepage, you might have a voice, a video from your pastor welcoming people. You might have a section on your navigation bar about where people can learn more if they're a first-time visitor. But pay attention to your homepage. Also, I want you to pay attention as to how you both answer the office phone or the voice message that you leave on your office phone. That's a perfect time to highlight the uniqueness of your congregation, to change your voice message on a consistent basis where you're highlighting the next upcoming event. But think about that. Call in sometime after hours and just listen to what actually your church says as an outgoing message. And then lastly, I want you to think about as a person comes to visit, whether it's worship or a different type of event, how do you create 2 or 3 wow moments for them? Think about the high impact moments, and we'll go deeper with that. And I want you to think about, I want you to view this ministry as if you were a guest. If you come to worship, you will see things differently if you view yourself as a guest. You'll start paying attention to things that you just become blind to because you've been a member for 10 or more years of the church. So everything we talk about, look at it through the eyes of a visitor. Second tip, I want you to create a list. If we're talking about inviting, so many churches actually try to start and launch new activities to invite people. And I encourage them before they do that, to step back, spend an hour going back through all your newsletters from the last year, or look at your calendar, your church calendar, and see all those different activities. Actually make a list of everything that you do. And my challenge for you would be is to create a top 20 list of potential inviting activities, and not necessarily have to launch new ones, but to repackage and be more intentional about inviting people to what you're already doing or may continue to do. So start with last year's events. Every church I know usually has 4 or 5 signature events. Could be a Thanksgiving dinner. It could be a golf tournament. It could be working with Habitat for Humanity. It might be an online Bible study, but whatever that is, I want you to think about that and make sure you name those things, and then really put some energy into inviting people intentionally. And then what a lot of churches also do, once they kind of create this list throughout the year, they start categorizing it. Because what I want to lift up is that some people will want to come to a worship experience or a concert. Others will want to be involved in a servant event. Others will want to be part of a social activity. One church I work with, they've had great success with people being part of a monthly theater group. They meet at the church, they have some coffee, catch up with each other, and then they head off to a performance. So I want you to think about organizing by service, by social, and by kind of spiritual growth or worship. So categorize those things, and then also kind of map them out by month. What would we want to be paying attention to and thinking about how we're going to plan those activities? And then as you look at those activities, also say, what have we done before primarily for our own faith community, but maybe we could be more intentional about making it an invitational ministry beyond just serving the needs of our members. So think about that top 20 list. Promotion. I want to encourage you to think about that. You always share the what in just 1 or 2 sentences. You share the so what. Why does it matter? How will they benefit? How will this bring joy to their life, meaning to their life, help them solve a problem, whatever it is? But we need to have the so what. We just assume people know why the event is important. And then the now what? Okay, if you're interested, what's the next step? How do I learn more? How do I sign up? So, and what so often happens is that churches actually, I think, over-program. We have so many things that people just can't figure out what activity to participate in. It's like when you go to the grocery store and you go get toothpaste and you have 50 different types of toothpaste. Sometimes we make it harder for people to decide because we have so much going on. Sometimes you might need to lighten the load, or at a minimum, if you're doing everything, don't try to promote every single thing you're doing, but name, maybe there's 1 or 2 key events each month that you want to be intentional about inviting people to. Also, I think it's important, we talk about wanting to invite, but rarely do I hear a church actually say, what's your wins? How will you define if you've been successful or not? Is it having 2 new people at that event? Is it having 5 people come to Sunday worship service every week? What are your wins? I want you to think about that. And again, going back to the communication, keep your message short and memorable. Most people are visual leaders, so sometimes they actually like the video or a postcard or an image that goes with print. So think about that. And always share, if you're passing on to other people, share the what and make sure you share the why. Also, I want to encourage you to think about how do you make it inviting easy for your members, for your leaders, for those that are already signed up. And we'll talk a little bit more about the specific tools. But for this, I want you to just be clear about, let's make it easy for them, and let's be clear about what we're inviting them to and how they will benefit as a result of being part of that. And then I want to highlight the use of Canva. Canva is an online content creation tool. And some of you might have graphic designers or people, a communications director that creates these beautiful flyers and handouts, but a lot of churches don't. So I just highlight this is that whatever you send out to create some shareable publications, if you don't have the skill set for that, there is this canva.com that hundreds, probably thousands of churches use on a regular basis to create some really great content. So, but as you think about creating shareable content, first of all, you kind of have to say, what are our main communication channels? How could we take our e-newsletter and repackage the content there so it's real easy for a member to share it to their friend or a coworker or a neighbor. Maybe it's your Facebook page that draws people, but think about what those communication channels are that extend beyond your own members. And then as far as creating that shareable content, I want to encourage you to think about most people, they don't need a lot of details. Give them the who, what, where, when, why, and how. Maybe include a quote, but sometimes we give them too much information. Think about what's the information you could put on a business card or a postcard. And if you have much more information than that, you're probably going to lose people. What some teachers have done is actually created these beautiful flyers and handouts and encourage their members to help invite. And they'll post them on their website where people can download them, put them in a text message, put it in an email, print out a sheet, whatever. But I just want you to think about how do you create your shareable content that's actually accessible to people if they want to use it. Then I want to encourage you to think about brainstorming a list of promoters. Because, it shouldn't be just the people that are planning that event that have to be the promoters. How are you getting staff on board? How are you getting your elected leaders on board? How are you getting other ministry team leaders on board? But this is where things kind of go more viral, is when we actually have dozens of people promoting that event. And actually make a list of also who can create your content so it looks really nice and sharp, and then who's going to post it on your Facebook page, who's going to put it in the email. Sometimes we have planning groups that don't know how to disperse that information because we've never shared it with them. So it might be helpful to have a roster of who needs to help create it and who needs to help post it. So think about Canva. Also want to encourage you to think about how do you use scripts. If you want people to tell others about an upcoming event or share their experience from a past event, maybe we should give them just some basic details. So a lot of times we give, we'll write down, fill in the sentence or complete the sentence or answer the question on an index card and give it to people, and that create short videos, short one paragraph descriptions. But a lot of times if we do a video or whatever, just asking people, hey, share who you are. Hey, I'm Jim Ledoux, and I've been a member at this church for 10 years. And I attended this ski retreat and had a phenomenal reason. And I want to share with you 3 reasons why you should consider signing up for that ski retreat as well. And if you want to learn more, go to so-and-so here, and here's how you sign up. So just kind of think about creating a very short script that can be shared with other people in basically a minute or less. But I also want to lift up, if someone's coming to an event, you might also want to ask them, do you have any friends or neighbors or coworkers that would like to join you as well? So think about tapping into their network of friends when you have new people coming, but use scripts. Also use specific testimonials. And so often churches realize afterwards, or they see other churches doing, they say, boy, we got to do that. But actually what makes it really easy is when you just had an event. If you are intentional about evaluating that event, and maybe you give people an index card and said, what was the best thing about this event? Or what's one thing you liked? What's one thing you'd change? But I always try to get, if we get in for feedback from participants, what would you want to say to another person on why they should attend this event? You'll get some great quotes from your participants that you can use at future publications. And I looked that up just like Amazon has their reviews. I pay attention. If something's reviewed 4.8, it's probably going to be a pretty good product. If it's 3.5, I'm sure I'm not going to buy it. So the best persuaders, influencers of your upcoming events is actually past participants that have had a good experience. Think about how you tap into that. People, again, are more visually oriented, so photos or videos will work much better than just print information. Again, we talked about quotes and comments. And I also really like the 3 reasons why you should come to an event. I've seen churches also do, here's the top 10 reasons. And then one week they highlight one person, here's reason number 1, and here's the reason number 2, here's reason number 3. But I want you to think about how you're creating a flow of information, reminding people about the event and why it was powerful for other people in the past. And then lastly, sometimes we get these great stories, but we didn't actually think strategically as leaders of the church. Where are we storing these stories, these quotes, these comments in some place that we can readily access them in the future. So think about where you store them so you can repurpose that content. Number 7, I want you to plan ahead. Most of the time, our promotional efforts, I wouldn't say fail, but we don't get the greatest impact, the biggest bang, because we start too late. We're so busy planning the event. And this is where you might say, we can't plan as many events as we can and promote them well. Maybe you need to cut back on the number of events you have more lead time in the plan. But we really like to have you think about planning events at least 60 days ahead of time and having promotional content available to your members at least 45 days beforehand. And a lot of times this stuff falls by the wayside because many of our events, we don't have a person specifically assigned to be kind of the promotion coordinator. And then that person can pick up, what are we going to share with people? How are we going to share with it? And who can help us share that content with other people? Some churches I work with actually create a monthly leadership, they call leadership link email. It has some basic updates for all leaders just to keep them abreast of decisions and things like that. But there's almost always a section on help us promote these 3 events coming up. And it's a who, what, where, when, why type of thing. But it gives them that basic script so that they can be advocates and promoters of those upcoming events. If they don't have the information, as much as people might want to help out, they're not going to do it well. And the email also gives people a reminder about these events and a reminder, hey, we need your help promoting them. So broaden that support. Number 8 here, talk about partnerships. So often, we're talking primarily what happens within the church, but just know that a lot of your events that you might want to invite people to or promote people to might take place at a college where there's a play happening on. It might be with another church you work with. But I want to encourage you to think about broadening your promotional support network and also maybe that network of collaborative activities you might do. In particular, I want to encourage you to think about how you collaborate with the churches in your local community. So often we compete against other churches rather than have this abundant mindset that we're going to collaborate well with each other. I want you to think about that. I served the Lutheran Church for a little over 20 years. And one of the things I found most helpful is with the Methodist Church, the Presbyterian Church, there was a non-denominational church, there was 2 Catholic churches, but we actually shared, we were on each other's newsletters lists. So we knew what was coming up in the different places and we could help promote them. We could see if there's something we want to partner on, but just think about ways that what else is going on out there and also within your city and thinking about how you can collaborate with local organizations, churches, colleges, seminaries, etc. But I always kind of ask that question, who else can help get the word out? And it may be people beyond your church. Think about those different people and those different venues. And lastly, I want to lift up this is kind of a new piece. A lot of churches have said, especially when we talk about creating publications, promotions, saying, well, we just don't have staff and we can't afford to hire a person 10 hours a week or 20 hours a week. We're seeing more and more churches across the country where one person has like a 30-hour-a-week communications director, and other churches have collaborated to make it a full-time position, and they work 5 hours for this church and 2 hours for that one. And that person, in essence, kind of has become a freelancer for helping people create good content. So you might find if another church has a communication staff member, that staff member might potentially be interested and willing to help you in some of your communication work as well. So think about partnerships. Inspecting results. This is something that I think so often we miss in churches, and we're so busy planning events, and then we think about promoting them. But we have these next events all stacked up that need to be promoted and planned as well. We don't actually take the time to evaluate what just happened. And this is something you'll hear time and time again from me. If you want to improve as a church, as a leader, etc., you have to inspect your results. So I want you to think about, even as you began planning the process and promotion, what are you learning along the way? So create feedback loops to improve your results. Have an after event meeting and say, what would we do? What worked well with our promotion plans and inviting plans? What didn't work? What would we do differently? And take good notes on these items. So share your learnings with other team members share it with other staff. But also, in particular, think about this information needs to be shared to the person that's, if this is a repeat event, this information needs to be shared with the next person planning that event so that they have your wisdom, they have your ideas, and can make the next event even more impactful and do a better job of inviting. And then again, just like I encourage you to archive your comments, your quotes, your photos, your videos, you should actually be keeping a list of kind of what do you have an event planner for your events? And is there a place for notes for what you do to improve inviting in the future? And where do you archive those that's accessible for people? But inspection's key. If you consistently do that, continually tweak and make small, consistent changes, you'll always get a better result. And then lastly, I just want to lift up this tip of just asking questions. And again, this goes back to what were our wins from this event? And are we measuring the right things? A lot of times we just ask who showed up. But in this setting, we want to say, did we have some new people that showed up? And then you might ask, did we invite them to something else after they came? And how do we know if they had a good experience? How could we double the number of newcomers next time we do this event? So I want to encourage you to think about asking better questions that will lead to better results. And ask that what if we change this? Because sometimes you have a great event, you find out, oh, you know what, we started it too early. Or, we instead of an afternoon event, it should have been an evening event. Or 3 hours was too long for people. We should have done it in 90 minutes. So I want you to take an event and then ask a bunch of what if questions that would make it more impactful and also easier to invite other people in the future. And we always ask in events, and we use it, we call it the KISS evaluation exercise. But what worked and if it worked, what do we want to make sure we keep doing? This is really good information. What is it that, and if those things that we want to keep doing, how do we actually improve them? That's the I out of the KISS part. Is there anything we did that just didn't get any mileage, just took up time and energy, wasn't worth it? What do we need to stop doing or stop promoting, whatever? And what might we want to start or try new and experiment with? But if you inspect, you ask good questions, you plan far enough ahead of time, you get more people inviting, and then you actually have some specific tools to make it shareable for people, I'd venture to say that your inviting efforts will improve. I hope these 10 tips are helpful for you. I'm going to leave you with 2 last thoughts. If you are watching this individually or as a team, I really want to encourage you to think about what's stirring for you. What did you learn? What might you apply based on what you've heard today? What questions do you have that you might want to dialogue with other team members? What will you share with other leaders and team members? And what might you research deeper or want to go deeper with? And lastly, I want to say, what's next? As you kind of create your master list events, most people don't really have that. They don't know what their inviting events are. That might be a starting point for you. Your starting point might be gathering quotes and testimonials from your events that you're currently planning and using that for future promotions. Rather than trying to improve the inviting process for every single event you do, pick just 1 or 2 events and plan that well. Learn from that event and then pick another event and plan that. Over a period of time, you'll just find that you're kind of raising the bar on the invitational level for all other events. But start small, do what's doable. Also create 1 or 2 shareable tools. Just try something besides just the announcements or what's in the e-newsletter. Create a postcard, create a business card, get a nice flyer, whatever it is, but try another avenue that can be used to promote this to a broader audience. And we call any of those handouts, those publications, the Facebook posting, the quotes, those are all tools to help you better invite. And lastly, you know that I'm available to support you in some of your next steps. If you want to connect with me or want to connect with another coach, if we can help you walk alongside you and take the next steps, we're happy to do so. Thanks for joining us today. Be well.